virtually. I see Commissioner Anderson, you're online. And I'm not sure if we're going to have some public comment cards come in. We should have enough time to receive in-person public comment. So moving to agenda item number 2. We're implementing the county guidance for the SAFE program, saluting armed forces every day. So before we begin the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll ask anyone who is currently serving to please stand up and be recognized. Sir, thank you for your service. And anyone who has served in the military, please stand as well. Thank you for your service. Appreciate it. And I'll ask the Vice Chair to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Appreciate it. We'll move to the next agenda item, please. Commissioner roll call. Stephanie, when you're ready.
Commissioner Crooks, Commissioner Palmero,
Present.
Commissioner Jackson Kelly,
Present.
Commissioner McFadden,
Present.
Commissioner Chair Alman,
Present.
Commissioner Noyola,
Present.
Commissioner Zato,
Present.
Commissioner Gutierrez,
Present.
Commissioner Anderson.
Present.
Chair, you have a
Present.
quorum.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. Next, we'll move to the approval of the minutes. You should have a hard copy in your commissioner packet. We want to take a moment to review that, and then we'll need a motion in second.
Chair,
Commissioner?
I move that we accept the minutes as printed.
Thank you. Commissioner Jackson Kelly, motions? Vice Chair, seconds. Stephanie, can you please do a roll call vote to approve the minutes?
Chair Alman,
Approve.
Vice Chair McFadden, Commissioner Palmero,
Approve.
Commissioner Jackson Kelly,
Approve.
Commissioner Zato,
Approve.
Commissioner Noyola,
Approved.
Commissioner Gutierrez,
Approved.
Commissioner Anderson.
Approve.
Okay, thank you. The minutes have been approved. We'll get to the next agenda item, the chair report. The notice of meeting went out on January 11th around 7:48 in the morning. For those of you who are not on the email distribution list for the department, you can go to mva.lacounty.gov. And if you look at the header on top of the website, you'll see near the social icons an envelope. If you click on that, that's how you can subscribe to our mailing list. And we would encourage you while you're there on the website to subscribe to the YouTube channel for the department. That's where you'll find recordings of these public meetings if you want to reference it. Our goal is to get the department to 100. We have about 79 subscribers right now, so we're making progress. For those of you who are new to this, we have a rotating chair protocol here. So at the beginning of every calendar year, the chair rotates by district. So I will be taking over for this calendar year per Article 3, Item B of our bylaws. We do have a vacancy in SD3. So per the bylaws, the chair has the ability to appoint a vice chair. Vice Chair McFadden here has accepted the invitation. And as soon as another commissioner is approved for SD3, you'll be relieved of your command. So thanks for hanging with us. One thing I do want to put on the agenda for next meeting is a review of the bylaws. You all should have a printout in your commissioner packet. I think it's a good idea once a year to just take a look at it and maybe make any refinements. I know we did that previously with Commissioner Zeto's chairmanship. And so if you have any edits to the bylaws, let's go ahead and take a look at that next meeting. And if you could submit those amendments by February 7th, that would give us enough time to publish them in the notice of meeting so that the public can take a look as well. So one agenda or one item I'd like to bring back into the conversation. A few months ago, we looked at potential logos for the Veterans Advisory Commission. So it's been a few months. We've had a couple meetings. I just want to bring those drafts back into the conversation. I know at the time some people had some different ideas. So this was our starting point. And I think, you know, it's been a few months. So if you all want to take a look at it again and maybe share some opinions, and maybe we can get something, maybe we can find consensus at the next meeting to go ahead and approve the commission's first logo. So I know that there's some disagreement, I think, on the color. I think, Vice Chair, you had liked this number 4 pattern with the Pepsi Cola. Is that what they call it? The 2 different colors as opposed to 1 color. Maybe you'll find more agreement between the service branches. I know the Air Force people want blue and the Army people want green. You know, my preference is number 1, but it's just my opinion. So I don't know if we want to go around the room and just get one last sort of round of feedback, and or not. We don't have to. Just an idea. Vice, do you want to start?
Sure. So my original decision was vote for number 4. I like that it combined colors from all service branches, so that it felt very inclusive and unifying. I think we had a question about the number of stars, combining the stars on the outside, the stars on the inside. So I don't know if there was any additional feedback or thoughts that were made to that, but other than that,
Would you want to take the stars out?
I like the stars,
As is.
but I like it as is. But if we remove them, I would be okay with that as well.
Commissioner, you had some ideas?
Yes. Do we know what those stars stand for? Or is it just because they're pretty?
It's subjective. It's art. It could be whatever you want it to be.
I would, since we have 6 branches, like I would almost suggest that we would add 2 more, but I just don't know where you would put them.
Yeah, the difficulty is that it's cut off at the half point.
Yes, absolutely.
One thing you could say is, you know, you have a star for the Department of Army, Department of Navy, you have Department of Veteran Affairs, and what's the other? I'm missing a department. The National Guard Bureau.
So aside from the stars, I do like, again, the inclusivity, right, because of the colors, but also it stands out, right, because we stand out, like the things that we have to do, what we're called to do here as part of the commission, it's important. So I would vote, that's my favorite. My preference would be number 4.
Okay. You know, initially when I drafted number 4, I was copying the county flag. Most people don't realize it's blue and green. It had nothing to do with service branches. It just happened to have come out that way. So Okay, so it seems like we're leaning towards number 4. Do you like it with or without the stars?
I like it with stars, but side note, it would just be so wonderful if that had some kind of meaning
Mhm.
to it.
Commissioner, do you have any? Are you an art critic today?
No, I just have a difference of opinion.
Okay.
So I actually like number 2 because it does incorporate the 3 stars on each side, and I like the idea that we should have a meaning for what we put on things, and certainly the stars could represent each of the services as we know them today. I'm partial to blue. I'm not sure why.
You want to state your branch of service?
And, I see a
Did that
lot
have
of
something to do
green.
with it?
I don't see red. I think there's white also. So, the question becomes, what should that background be? As far as the color.
Mhm.
But I'm partial to number 2, actually. I think it's a little cleaner and does, I saw the stars and the first thing came to mind was the 6 branches of
Right.
service. And so if we adopt something like that, we want to make sure that we clarify what those meanings of each of the symbols are.
Okay. And for those members of the public, the reason why we're talking about a logo is historically this commission has used the department's logo, and I think that that's confusing because this commission is not the department. We are in a separate chain of command, and we report to the Board of Supervisors on how the department is serving the military veteran community here. So the idea is by creating our own logo, we create a separate identity that is distinct from the department. Commissioner Jackson Kelly, do you have some ideas?
Yes, I too like number 2. And I agree regarding the stars. Um, I don't know how I would feel if I was in a branch of service and mine was left out. So I think that we should investigate that further.
Okay, so you like number 2, all blue with the 6
All blue,
stars.
yeah.
Okay.
Being a psych nurse, I kind of have some questions about number 4 because it seems like it's a little schizophrenic to me because it's 2 colors.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. I've already stated my preference for number 1 without the stars, only because I think it'll be easier to replicate. When you add too much detail in a small space, it becomes harder. But that's my opinion. Vice, you've already shared with us your opinion. Chairman Zato, or former Chairman Commissioner Zato, sorry, so many titles.
I prefer 2 and 3. I'm not stuck with what color is in the background. I do like the branches being represented, and same kind of like your reasoning for number 1 is my reason. I don't care for number 4 is the more elements you add, actually, the design. If you do it in one color, yada yada, blah blah blah.
Right.
It just becomes more complicated. So I think 2 or 3, I'd be fine with either color.
Commissioner?
I'd agree with Commissioner Zato. 2 or 3 works. I'm not really stuck on the color, but the logos look good and the stars have meaning, so either one of those would work.
Okay, so we can rule out 1. Okay.
Yes.
Chair loses the first one. That's not a good sign. That's a bad omen. Okay. We'll put that feedback together and see what we come up with at the next meeting. We'll move on to the next item. If we can go back, I think there's just one more item on the chair report, and that's really establishing the agenda for this calendar year for the commission. I mean, obviously this is a collaborative body, but the chair is able to sort of set some direction, and so I just wanted to talk about that for a minute. For me this year, I think that this will be my last year on the commission, and so what I would like to do is achieve 3 goals. One, and we're going to get a briefing here today from the Department of Regional Planning, is to get the process started on getting Bob Hope Patriotic Hall registered as a historic landmark. I think, it's time, and especially because we have the centennial coming up. So what better time to celebrate, this historic building and what it represents to the military veteran community than its 100-year birthday. So that's one thing. We'll get that briefing today from the Department of Regional Planning. The other issue I think that we should delve into is organizational structure for the department. Is the department structured to serve its current mission or future missions? And should we talk about that? So, I think this would go into the third thing that I would like to pursue is really discussing, beyond the filing of VA and state claims, what should this department be charged with? And I think that we have to do a better job, we as a community, with regard to veterans reintegration. I think largely it's viewed to be a federal problem. I don't think it's a federal problem. I think it's a community problem. It's a local problem. And I think that the county can show the rest of the country how veterans reintegration should be organized. And so those are the three things that I'd like us to talk about moving forward. I would like, and we could talk about this later on, to change how we do things. I think in the past we've received a lot of briefings and we haven't had a lot of time for internal discussion and debate. And this year, I think we can be more introspective and talk about these issues internally. And hopefully, if we reach agreement, issue some recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. So with that, I'll end the chair report and we'll move to our briefing from the Department of Regional Planning. Speaking of logos, I think that's a great logo for what it's worth. I enjoyed it. And our guest speaker, sir, thank you for making time to come here and brief the commission, and we look forward to learning more about the process.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Dean Edwards. I coordinate the county's historic preservation program for LA County Planning. With me are my Deputy Director, Connie Chung, Assistant Administrator, Edward Rojas, and Program Supervisor, Bruce Durbin. We also have DRP's consultants, Barbara Lamprecht and Marie Campbell of Zappos Environmental in attendance. We've been invited here today to do a presentation on listing the hall on a historic register. Next slide, please. I'll begin by defining historic preservation, then providing an overview of the historic registers, followed by listing and determinations of eligibility, National Register listing, county landmark designation, and listing restrictions and benefits. We'll wrap it up with questions and answers from your commission. Historic preservation is the process of identifying, protecting, and enhancing buildings, places, and objects of historical and cultural significance. Next slide, please. Listing a historic resource on a register is a critical step in preserving the resource. Resources can be listed on one of the 5 registers, which are at the national, state, and county levels. The state has 3 registers: buildings, sites, features, or event locations that have anthropological, cultural, military, political, architectural, economic, scientific, technical, religious, experimental, or other historical value may be listed as a California historical landmark or point of interest. Historical landmarks are significant statewide and points of interest are significant locally. The California Register of Historical Resources includes buildings, sites, structures, objects, and districts significant in the architectural, engineering, scientific, economic, agricultural, educational, social, political, military, or cultures of California. Next slide, please. On January 15th, 1976, the property was listed as a California Point of Historical Interest. On September 15th, 1982, the Federal Highway Administration determined the property eligible for listing in the National Register. Also on that date, the property was listed in the California Register of Historic Resources. On April 17th, 1994, the property was again determined eligible for listing on the National Register, this time for serving as a war memorial and for its Italian Renaissance Revival architecture. This determination was made by the State Historic Preservation Office, or OHP, for its Northridge Earthquake Project. This information I just provided is based on preliminary research and available records. Next slide, please. The nomination process for the National Register begins with the consultant researching records. Then they will evaluate the property again for eligibility, complete the registration form, and submit it to the state. OHP then notifies the property owner and local government, solicits public input, reviews the nomination, and submits it along with their recommendation to the National Park Service. The National Park Service will then review the nomination and list the property. The entire process takes approximately 5 to 12 months. Next slide, please. The property is also eligible to be listed as a county landmark because it has already been listed on the California Register of Historical Resources and determined eligible for listing on the National Register. If the commission is interested in county nomination, a completed application but no fee is required. Once we receive the application, our consultant will prepare an evaluation after re-inspecting the property. That evaluation will become the basis for staff's recommendation to the Landmarks Commission at a public hearing. The commission will determine if the property meets the criteria for designation and will make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to designate or not. The board will consider the designation as a consent item and also consider adopting guidelines and standards for work on the property. The entire process takes approximately 6 months. Next slide, please. Listing on the national and state registers is essentially honorary. There is no process to review work. However, there is a consultation process when applying for federal permits or funding for projects that impact the historical resource. Listing or determined eligible for listing on any of the 3 registered levels provides eligibility to use the state's historical building code, which provides flexibility in the local building code for projects involving a historical resource. Nationally listed historic resources are eligible for federal grants for the preservation of historic resources. Likewise, state-listed historic resources are eligible for state grants. For projects located on any of the 3 register levels, environmental reviews must consider substantial adverse effects to historic resources located on or near the project site. Properties listed on the national or state registers are eligible for tax deductions for rehabilitation work and for donations of preservation easements. For state and nationally listed properties, an enamel directional sign is available from Caltrans. If designated as a county landmark, regional planning will provide guidance on proposed work to ensure that it complies with the guidelines, standards, and designation when that guidance is requested by the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs or your commission. That concludes my presentation. We're available to answer questions that you may have regarding this item.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. I appreciate the time that the Department of Regional Planning is giving to this issue. So just to clarify, the building is currently eligible to be not only a county landmark, but it's also potentially, or not potentially, it is eligible for the California list of historical resources as well as national.
It's already listed on the California list of historical resource register of historical resources, and it's.
Sorry, can you use the mic so that the people?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. It's already listed on the California Register. It's determined eligible to be listed as a county landmark and on the National Register.
So for the state level, is there any higher status of historical significance, or is that?
I have to break this down to my level. I'm Marie Campbell. I'm the owner of Sapis Environmental, and we're a consultant to the county to assist them on their historic preservation program. So it's a complicated question. This property has a very complicated history in how it came to be listed on the state register. So it was a historical point of interest. And Federal Highway Administration at one point was working on a highway project. Federal Highway Administration operates under the federal regulations. Because it had been listed as a point of historical interest, the Federal Highway Administration asked the keeper of the National Register to make a determination if it was potentially eligible for listing on the National Register. So that's how that process came to pass. The state law says that any property that's listed on the National Register or determined to be eligible for listing on the National Register is automatically placed on the state register.
Oh, interesting.
So that's how it came to be placed on the state register.
Right.
So for California purposes, it is at the highest level. The issue is that the documentation package is very thin because at the point that Federal Highway Administration was asking for that determination, their only concern was when they did the highway improvements that they weren't adversely affecting the eligibility of the building for listing in the National Register. So the keeper does not have the ability when they make their determination to automatically place it on the National Register. And the county process similarly requires that someone be a proponent for being listed on the county register. So I'm happy to answer any questions. It is a very convoluted and circuitous history. We don't normally see this. It's very unusual.
Well, great. Thank you for that background. I think we're all just learning how this process works. I mean, I think a lot of veterans know that this building is historically significant, but the ins and outs and how to make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted is far beyond my level of understanding. I want to start with Commissioner Anderson online here. Do you have a question, Commissioner? I'm sorry I missed you on the logo topic. I can get with you offline about that. Do you have any questions for regional planning?
Do I have a question from you, Chairman?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
No, my only question would be, do we understand why it has not carried forward from 1994?
Just to clarify, I want to make sure I correctly address.
And please speak as close to the microphone as you can. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Fantastic. I want to make sure I understand your question. If the question is why it was not moved from being determined eligible to actually being listed, it's because no one has taken that. The county, as a property owner, would need to take that action.
So, Chair, does that mean it requires an initiative on the part of the commission?
Well, that's part of the reason why we asked the Department of Regional Planning to share with us sort of what that process looks like. Who is the
Yep.
steward? From my perspective, just as an individual, I think this is something that the commission should strongly consider in a recommendation form. Again, we can only make recommendations. It's up to the board, to accept those recommendations. But I think hearing from their veteran advisors that there's an opportunity to move this building in the right direction in terms of its historical status is something that we should consider. So
Thank you.
I think we're in agreement, Commissioner Anderson. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other commissioners have questions for regional planning? Commissioner Noyola, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Question for the group. Does the Division of Real Estate or any other county entity also weigh in as far as county properties and how they are involved in this process in validating any of this information or moving this process forward?
For National Register property, the county has to give consent, and I'm not quite certain which department that would be.
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear you.
For a National Register listing, the county obviously has to give consent. They're going to be the applicant, but if there was a board motion on that, that would be consent. Wouldn't have to go to an individual department.
Any other commissioners, questions? Commissioner Zato?
Hi, thanks for your presentation. This may be a complicated question. I don't think it is, but if pending some board motion to begin this process, do you guys see challenges, or are there specific issues that you guys know about when it comes to this building that could be a challenge to get the federal certification?
So the good news there is that the keeper of the register has already made a determination that it's potentially eligible. So at this point, it would be a matter of documenting that the building retains its character defining features that were considered by by the keeper in its original determination. And I'm going to let Barbara weigh in, but I don't see it from a procedural standpoint an issue.
Hi, my name is Barbara Lamprecht. No, I don't foresee any of those challenges. It does, in my opinion, retain integrity. It's a very good example of Italian Renaissance revival. In fact, it's a really, really good example. It was designed by a consortium of very important Los Angeles area architects who said to themselves, we want to band together to deliver public federal buildings that are of the highest, finest art in architecture. And that's why you have such a very elegant and successful facade. I mean, the challenge is that it's a complicated building with a lot of moving pieces. But for eligibility, no, not a problem, not a question.
Yeah, if I could just add an explanation for Barbara's final comment. So to manage the property, obviously you need to know what all the character defining features are. And there have been upgrades because there was substantial damage to the building during the Northridge earthquake, and the county accepted FEMA funding, right? So you have to document that and explain why that doesn't reduce the integrity of the building. But we're primarily focused on the exterior and then documenting what remains interior to the building, so that if at a future time you apply for either federal or state funding, that you have the basis for saying that those alterations are not going to further reduce its eligibility for listing. And I understand there might be some questions as well if there are additions that you wanted to do or different use of other parts of the property, and we're happy to answer those questions as well.
Do you happen to know off the top of your head how many county assets are historically significant?
That's an excellent question. So I can answer the national part. There are 55 buildings or structures in the county of Los Angeles that are on the National Register of Historical Places. We don't have as good a hand on the number of properties that are on the California Register of Historical Resources. The California registration system is not as user-friendly, and there's not a reciprocal agreement at this time between the county and the state register to make that data easily to access. It's a conversation that we've been having with the department about how to make that more readily accessible. And I'll let Dean address the issue of the county register.
I think we have about 11 landmarks on the county register right now.
11 on the county register. Is that 55 that are on the national register? But that's total. That's not just county-owned assets. That's 55 pieces of
That's
real.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that includes private properties, it includes other public agency properties, includes federal properties.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's a quite diverse mix.
And we're not aware of a survey of county-owned properties in terms of eligibility for any of the registers. I'm sure we have quite a few.
Right. Well, I hope the Hollywood Bowl is on there, but hope,
The Hollywood Bowl is a county landmark.
yeah. Okay. Any other questions from the commission?
So I'm trying to hear everything that's being said, and when you're not speaking directly to the mic, it's a little difficult for me. I don't think I heard, or maybe you mentioned it, who actually starts the process? Is it somebody, some division, some department in the county? If, is it this commission? Is it this department? Where does this start?
Thanks. It would be the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs.
Okay. So it would come from the staff,
Yes,
and it doesn't come from the commission. We just recommend.
that would work,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Just for the commission's awareness, is this on? Commission's awareness, I've been having conversations with SD1 about this. They're tracking it and supporting, looking at producing a motion, so.
I also want to add that it'd be helpful to have a board motion for the nominations.
And my last question, is there a specific time frame in which recommendations need to be made, or is it ongoing, continuous? Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, with that, thank you so much. Super informative. I think we're all interested in this process, and we're all hopeful to, get this kick-started, and so that we can recognize the historical significance of this building, hopefully in time, and with the centennial celebration. I think that would be a great way to have a 100th birthday. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. I believe we'll go to public comments next. We had 3 people sign up online for the advanced registration. I believe we'll have some time for public comments if anyone else submitted a registration card. No? Okay, so we just have 3 public comments, and all public comments will be held to 3 minutes. So I'll ask for the first speaker, Lavana Sherrills. Sorry if I mispronounced the last name. From SD5. Are you here or online? Okay, we'll move on. Don Moss from SD1. Are you online? And Maria Skelton. Okay. So for future reference, if anyone wants to register for public comment, they could do so with the notice of meeting, and they will be prioritized in the order in which they register. And then if we have people in person who are interested in making public comments, you can fill out the remaining slots that we have for public comment that day. So today's a pretty easy day in terms of public comments. And I think next up we'll have the department report. Before then, Commissioner Anderson, did you want to annotate your notes into the record as far as your logo preference? Do you remember?
Yeah, I'm a fan of number 4. Thank you.
Okay. Still nobody liked number 1.
My reason is because you have the blue for reference to the Air Force and Naval Services and the green for the ground forces. So let's go.
Thank you. With or without the stars?
Like the stars too.
Keep them? He said he liked this. Okay. All right. I'm still hurt by that. Oh. All right. Director Zenner, are you ready? Are you prepared?
Ready.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll hear from the department. Take it away.
All right, next slide, please. And next slide. All right, so this slide is just a breakdown of claims. It's pretty on par with what we've had the last couple months. I'd say the most significant growth in claims activity has been in the East LA Vet Center. We were coming in around in the 20s and jumped up to 60. So as you can tell, our VA locations and vet centers, Gardena Vet Center jumped up a little bit as well, are really kind of our hot spots. That's really where there's a lot of veteran and family member traffic. Next slide. That's just a quick breakdown of slides, or breakdown of claims rather in this slide. And these are publicly available, so I'll go through these pretty quick. Next slide. So our Justice Involved program up from 63 to 77. We have one staff that is getting a list of all veterans that are incarcerated in LA County jails, and he is outreaching in the jails to those individuals to provide education about benefits that are available to them, working with veterans who are not eligible for VA health care and working to do what's called a character discharge upgrade to get them eligible for VA health care, and also service-connected. So that's really kind of what this slide represents. We also, of significance, the motion that was passed by the board in November, we had our first meeting this month, last week, and we had several county departments, the VA there. It went extremely well, and special thanks to the vice for getting involved and participating. We appreciate your passion and your voice in that work. Next slide. 1807 program. This is our program with DPSS. So I think we've gone over this in detail before. So we can go to the next slide, please. Indigent burial, same thing. Well, I don't have an answer for you why we dropped so many claims in the month of December. We did see that we decreased in traffic during the month of December overall, but I have no explanation of why it dropped off so much in this particular month. Next slide. Veterans experiencing homeless. So when you come in to see us, one of the questions, the check boxes in our Vet Pro is, are you at risk or are you currently experiencing homelessness? And so we've had 64 veterans we served last month who indicated that they were at risk or were currently experiencing homelessness. And on here, we also listed our master leasing pilot. Master leasing is not new, something that's been around for a long time, but the department is working with the Homeless Initiative to free up funding to provide to LAHSA to look for landlords to engage in master lease, and VA would provide the ongoing supportive services. So that's how that partnership works. Those leases are not for a year or 6 months. Those master leases are actually for 3 years. So the tenants, so the landlords actually have a lot of security in master leasing out. They're guaranteed that income. They don't have to collect some from HUD and some from the actual tenant. They get paid directly from LAHSA for the entire amount of the rent. And with that, we're looking to attract landlords that have nicer properties. A lot of what you'll hear from the veteran, at least a lot of what I've heard from the veteran community, is we don't want more housing in South LA or Low Valley. More options for more localities. And so with that security base, that guaranteed income for landlords, working with one particular developer, we have some pretty nice properties near luxury apartments that we're working on securing through the master lease. And then the targeted benefits establishment, we have a request in for Measure H, which got moved forward by the homeless initiative that the board is going to vote on our entire county budget February 6th. So in there would include the 1.9 million that homeless initiative approved, and that would allow us to do targeted benefits establishment. We'd hire staff to particularly work with our continuum of care partners and VA partners to go through the list of 2,168 veterans experiencing homelessness that are on the list right now that we know by name, to see if they're connected to benefits or not. And if they're not, starting with those individuals to do a benefits assessment. And if they are eligible and want to move forward, applying for service connection. Staff would do that. Next slide. This is a VPN program. We're steadily increasing the amount of referrals from VPN. DMH staff, the contract staff, and MVA are working together to do more joint messaging and marketing to let the communities know that by coming in and seeing VPN, you can get connected to an accredited benefits rep with FVA. Next slide. And these slides are just cover a lot of administrative information, so we'll go through these. Next slide. Pretty quickly. Just let everybody read that. I don't want to for you. Next slide. And next slide. Next slide. So for a little bit of fundraising, we submitted a $400,000 grant to Calvet for MHSA dollars, specifically to support the Outside the Wire program, which is a outreach and therapy program that is located in the community college system. We also submitted 2 productivity investment fund requests to, one, support the justice involved work around training curriculum for first responders, law enforcement, and court officials to train them up on military culture, and then also provide them a proper referral route to get their veterans connected to services, and then $95,000 to support an innovative provision of mental health services through text messaging. It would be new to LA County. Human resources, this just shows a breakdown of hires that we've made over the last 7 months. And this is all through the direct hiring emergency authority that the county has allotted the departments as it relates to homelessness. Next slide. Next slide. And our vacancy rate is currently 14%. That is intentional. The 14% vacancy, I think there's 2 positions right now that we're hiring on, but the rest of the vacancy is intentional for cost savings purposes to make sure that we stay within budget. Next slide. And this is the amount of work studies, volunteers, and TSEs. TSEs are subsidized employment through our DPSS office. Next slide. And this is a new slide. It's just a breakdown of the number of staff that we have that are Calvet accredited, and also NACBSO, which is national accreditation. So you can see the number of accredited versus unaccredited on that slide. Next slide. And this is a breakdown of building services. Most significantly, halfway through the year, we're at about 8,500 visitors at the hall. That represents events, people walking in for services on the 2nd, 4th, and 6th floor, and then outside groups using the space to meet. So that's up pretty significantly from when we were recovering initially from COVID a little over a year ago. Next slide. And next slide. And this is just the calendar event. Tonight, we're very excited to host the Modern Warrior Live event. It is an event where it combines both very high-end jazz music, and then a narrative storytelling by an 82nd Airborne veteran who did 3 combat tours to Afghanistan as an infantryman. We really focused on outreach to our first responder and law enforcement communities, given the large amount of suicides and struggles that our fellow veterans have had in those departments, and as well as the nature of the work. We gave first registration rights to them, and then we opened it up to the general public about a week ago. So that's that event. And we have a few other events coming up, probably most notably, and this is an event that I invited the commission to, the VRCN. It's basically the Veteran Experience Office in DC, pulling together local leaders from VA and inviting external partners to come participate in a series of roundtables / panels, and really with promoting access to VA leadership and highlighting collaboration on our VA partner end. Next slide. And this is just some breakdown statistics of our communication efforts. Next slide. Legislative updates. I know in the past the commission's mentioned about legislation and what the department does. So we were able to work with legislative affairs and get county advocates and the board to support the Elizabeth Dole Home Care Act, which would significantly increase resources for our aging and disabled veterans to be able to stay in their homes. Also, not just a number act would mandate the VA secretary to incorporate benefits data into the healthcare data with their annual suicide prevention report. We anecdotally know as accredited veteran service officers that our work stabilizes veterans economically and therefore keeps them out of crisis. So the county is supporting this bill so that we can see the causality between benefits establishment and reducing suicide amongst the veteran community. Real Justice for Veterans Act would allow for grant funding to local communities to establish or sustain veteran treatment courts, or expand services in drug treatment courts for veterans to get alternative sentencing and diversion opportunities. And then the last doula act is the most recent one. Basically, it's more around women veterans' rights to have doula, which is, I can't explain that whole piece to you because I'm still learning myself. But it's another option for women vets who are having children to be able to get that reimbursed healthcare wise. So this county has been very supportive of making sure women veterans have options from our federal partners. Next slide. And this is our org chart. So I'm going to stop here and then see if there's any questions from the commission, if that works, Chair.
Thanks, Director. The department does a lot. I think we've seen that through the various slides, and over the past several meetings, we get frequent updates, just getting the fire hose of information. And one of the things I mentioned to Director Zenner is, I think we could take any one of those slides that we just saw, any one slide, and dedicate an entire meeting or multiple meetings to it. And so, while the information in the briefing is super helpful, I think it's almost too much information for us if we want to dive deep into these issues. And so, I don't know if you feel the same way. I don't know if you think that this format every month is enough. Maybe you need more information. Maybe it's too much. I just want to go around the table and see, what do you think as far as this level of information?
Yes, I'm in a meeting right now. Can we talk in about at 3 p.m. straight up?
So just in terms of the format of how we receive the information, my personal preference is to make a more targeted discussion around maybe 1 or 2 slides that we ask the director for, maybe in advance. Because I think if we get all of this information, it's hard for us to really deal with the issues. So, but again, we're a commission. I mean, if you like this format, we can keep the format. Commissioner, do you want to start?
Yes, I like, obviously, I appreciate all the
Is
information.
it on?
Is it on?
Yeah.
Yes. I like all the information that's being provided, but it is at a great speed. And so even trying to digest or trying to understand what exactly is going on, it's going to take a minute. So I don't know if we can get any of this information in advance, or if we can just pick 2 subjects maybe that we can discuss, because I know that the director is very busy, and that's probably one of the reasons we're going fast. But it's hard to be a commission and be able to make decisions and be able to point out things if it's going so fast.
Yeah, in defense of the department, I had asked, that, hey, we need to get more information. And so I think now we're at a point where we know that the department can produce the information. It's what information do we want to focus on, right? And that's up to us as a commission and relay that request to the department. Commissioner Noyola?
Thank you. I guess I would just say that a lot of the information that is being presented is information that the public ought to know. The department and the employees ought to know. The commission ought to know, because it does speak to quantity and potentially some quality as to what's happening within the department. And if we don't have that information out in the public, how can the public ask about what's going on with a certain thing if we're not producing that information? Now, does that mean that we have to have as much information on here? Maybe not, but I think it is important to share that, because then those that receive services or want to receive services can see what actually is going on. In terms of using this as topics that we may discuss, I don't know that ultimately this is what the purpose of this information is, as it is more about educating what the services are that are being provided, and if there is any issues or concerns about the logistics of a particular program, the financial of a particular program, then those are the things that maybe we can assist as a commission in, getting more information and making certain recommendations either to the department or to the Board of Supervisors as to policy directions, where we need to go. But I do think that this information is important, that it come out in the public, whether it's in this particular form or on the website, to where we all understand what really is going on in the department, because it is a lot. We don't have to show everything, but we need to highlight, at the 30,000 foot level, what is really going on in the department, which is quite a bit of good things.
I think to your point, it's a matter of determining what's the correct forum. And I know that the department is out there. I think huge success with the ST5 town hall. We had the ST3 town hall, and even then, it's a lot of information because you have a lot of other guest speakers. So maybe, an in-depth presentation like that is the basis of a monthly or quarterly state of the department. That's a webinar where anyone who wants to get into the weeds can do it. Maybe the expectation is that the commissioners are watching and can follow up for more specific details. I mean, I think these are things to figure out moving forward. Commissioner Jackson Kelly, do you have any thoughts?
My thought is that it is helpful to see what the department is doing. And what I do is I kind of filter out the things that I need to retain and the things that I can just say is good for information. So, and my question is, if we don't do it here, where will we do it?
Well, I mean, there's a couple different ways to do it. I think that we could potentially, get the slides in advance. And if we have specific questions, we could bring it up. I mean, I don't think we're going to come to a conclusion right now. It's just something to think about because it is so much information. And as I mentioned before with the chair report, I think if we're going to be effective, we need to focus and we need to pick and choose the information, that we want to focus on. So it's an open-ended, conversation as far as how we should do it. Any other thoughts? Commissioner, sorry. You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Vice?
So I like this format of getting the information. I take, it's coming, it's quick, but it is socialized to the public. I just extract the information that I feel that I need to focus in on or that I have more questions and concern and then follow up later. And if there's anything that's immediate, we follow up on an email or it can be brought up in the next meeting, but I like the way that this is formatted. I just kind of extract what I need to. I figured that director's given us all the high-level information anyway, and it is open to the public. So if I need to do any kind of deeper dive or analysis, I know the right resources to go to. So I'm okay with it at this, presented in this manner.
As is. Okay.
Would probably prefer to get this along with the meeting notes and agenda, so I could kind of dig deeper. I think I would defer to the other commissioners, the chair and the vice, on those, each individual meeting, that there may be something that comes up hot, or, I don't, it is hard to kind of digest all of this. I do think it should be made available to the public on the website. But if I had to vote, I would like to see these slides, a couple weeks or the week before the meeting, so that if there's anything that pops up for our district, we can.
Maybe
have
it
questions
goes
ready.
out with the notice of meeting.
Yeah, the notice of meeting, or when we get the agenda from the minutes from the previous meetings to review. But yeah, I think it is a lot. And I know that there's a lot of work you would like us to do this year. And I think being focused in month to month, we saw last year, right, that certain issues kind of overcame our intentions and events. And so, I defer to you and the vice to kind of set the tone and hot topics that we want to focus on.
I think we all agree that the information should be public. Right? I don't think that anyone disagrees with that. It's how to convey the information to the public. Commissioner?
Yeah,
Any thoughts?
Commissioner Zato's been on a roll today, so I'm exactly what he said. If we can get it in advance, pay me later. If we can get it in advance and be able to see it and make it public, definitely that. I do appreciate the fact that we're getting the information though, because I feel for a long time we were not getting information. And it's hard for me to say that it's too much information because we just didn't get anything before. So I do appreciate it. Thank you, Director, for that. And we're actually getting to see kind of the inner workings and everything that goes on in the building. I couldn't tell you before who came in for what. And now we have an idea of what that is, and we can map it out and expand the services where they're needed, because you can see it. So I do appreciate that. I just like to look at it a little bit deeper, as you all mentioned, and for it to be maybe somewhere on the website.
Commissioner Anderson? I think we need to take him off mute. If we could take Commissioner Anderson off mute.
Yeah, no, he has to mute himself.
Commissioner, can you unmute yourself if you have any thoughts? No thoughts. Commissioner, give me a thumbs up if you could hear me. Commissioner Anderson, online. Do you have anything to add? Are you good? Okay. Director, I don't know if that's helpful just in terms of hearing feedback from the commission.
Yeah, I heard, get the information, a week in advance. There's not too much, information, when it comes to making it public. Um, and yeah, I mean, we're open, like if you want us to send this a week in advance, the slides, and then you want like a 2-slide overview, at the actual commission meeting, happy to accommodate however you'd like as a commission, the information to be relayed.
Do you think maybe with the notice of meeting, we could put in the supplemental, just department report? That way the public can download it, review it. If they have any questions, they could bring it up in public comment.
I like that idea, yeah.
Okay. What I would like to maybe experiment with next meeting is just dedicating the department report to this slide, the org chart, just so we can delve into the organizational structure in great detail. Is that okay with you, Director?
Yeah, so for clarification, you want all the data on the slides ahead of time, but then when we come to the commission meeting, we'll just focus on this one slide.
I think so. Can we try that? What do you all think? Okay. I think the expectation would be if the commissioners see something in the department report, you could bring it up, but we'll focus on 1 or 2 slides. And if the commissioners have nothing to add, maybe, we can revert back to the slide deck, but, maybe as needed, we'll focus on some things. And I only mentioned that just because I think, this one slide alone could take up, 90 minutes. So we just got to break it down, make it Barney style, as they say in the Army. Any other questions for the director, not necessarily pertaining to the org chart or the slides? Any at-large questions for the department? Okay, hearing none. Commissioner Anderson, any thoughts?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You caught me there. Go ahead, please. I'm at a disadvantage because the audio is so poor. I've been doing everything I can to stay tuned.
Oh, sorry about that. We'll see what's going on for next meeting and
Yep, good,
adjust.
thank you.
Sorry about that. Director, have you concluded the department report? Or do you have
Commissioner, were you at good of the order?
Not quite yet, Commissioner
Okay,
Anderson.
let me know when you are. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm finished for my report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks to the department, thanks to the staff for making all the information available and sharing it with not only the commission, but the public. We'll move to the next agenda item. So this is an opportunity for commissioners to add things to the agenda. As I mentioned before, I think we should be a little bit more discerning with this because I think we've flooded ourselves in the past with a lot of information. We haven't had time to really digest it and develop potential recommendations. So that being said, we're all equals. If you want to put something on the agenda, feel free. Anyone? Any topics for future meetings? Commissioner Jackson Kelly?
I've been trying to get something together for Black History Month. And with the other things that have come up, I have not been able to do so. So I'm asking that maybe if we can just do a small recognition, it will be helpful.
Okay. Do you have a speaker in mind? You want to do maybe like a 10-minute listen or educational session? Do you have, I think last year we had somebody come in and give a presentation. Do you have another speaker in mind?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Well, I think we can accommodate that, absolutely. Do you want to work with the director and we'll find a contact or a topic?
Okay.
That sound good? Okay. So I think for next month's agenda, we'll have a dedication for Black History Month. Any other thoughts? Okay.
Okay, the other thing is,
Oh.
I did start working on Women's History Month, and I pinpointed March 27th, if that date is available. And I contacted retired Major General Kite, who did a panel discussion in the past, and she's willing to do that again this year.
For the March meeting?
No, this will be separate from the meeting.
Okay.
It's like a program.
Okay. Well, that's something that would be outside of the commission, right?
Right.
Okay. Do you want to address that now, or?
Yeah, I mean, we say yes, so we'll make it happen.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to the next agenda item, but we will get something on the agenda, Commissioner Jackson Kelly, for recognition of the Black History Month. I believe our next meeting is on the, I should look at my calendar, but our meetings are always the third Wednesday of every month. So we'll get something, we'll get a speaker. Hopefully you can work with the department on that. Go to the order. So this is an opportunity for the commissioners to, I'm sorry, Commissioner Noella, you have an agenda item?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would like to have an item added to the agenda. I believe that one of our commissioners is being recognized on a national level. And I would like the commission to entertain a recommendation for a proclamation by the County Board of Supervisors in recognition of our commissioner, Ms. Jackson Kelly.
That is a great idea. I fully support that. We would need a recommendation from one of the commissioners at least 2 weeks prior so that that information can go out with the notice of meeting to the public.
I'll be more than happy to take care of that.
I'm so glad you said that.
And if I could, just one announcement that I should have probably made during the report. So everybody knows Chuck Jester. He's been with the department for over 40 years, a main staple and literally a part of this building. Next week is his last week. So like to recognize, I don't see him in the crowd to true form. He's out there working somewhere, but yeah, I just want to let the commission and the public know that we're going to be missing Chuck quite a bit, as will the veteran community, but we wish him well in his retirement, and hopefully he doesn't go far. I don't think he will, but he will be leaving MVA after next week, so just wanted to make that announcement.
Okay. To begin the good of the order, we'll start with the first district. Commissioner Palmero, anything for the good of the order?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson Kelly?
I was appointed the unit representative, the rep for the West Los Angeles Medical Center by the auxiliary, VA&R. So as a result of that, I shopped for the women in the domiciliary. There was 14 of them at the time, and I took clothing, gift cards, and toilet articles out to them for Christmas Eve.
To clarify, is that AFGE? Is that the union that you're?
No, VA&R.
Oh,
For the auxiliary.
okay, got it.
The American Legion Auxiliary.
Got it.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add for good of the order?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Vice McFadden?
Just wanted to say that if you haven't already participated or if anybody hasn't gotten involved, the Justice Involved Veterans Project went to the meeting last week. It was so good. So many different, as the director mentioned, so many different organizations were there, DMHA, the county, the city, the police, law enforcement, everybody. It was just a good showing of support and efforts to make this successful. One of the things that was a continuous problem that seems to be aligned with all of our areas is self-identification of veterans. No matter what facet or branch or effort that anyone was speaking on, it was how to get veterans to self-identify. And it's something that we need to, I encourage everyone for their districts to try and, support that effort, whatever you can to help promote the self-identification of our military service members in whatever capacity they are, because the services are there. But if we don't have them identified, we don't know who to help. So just encouraging you to speak out and to communicate with individuals as well as your local representatives and organizations to help encourage and motivate veterans to speak. I'll be going to visiting with one of the offices and speaking to veterans that are there and just speaking to the audience in general to encourage them to self-identify and just from a different perspective, and to also listen, because sometimes it's just listening and hearing the stories and just letting them know that somebody's there. So just passing it along.
Thank you, Vice. Commissioner Zato?
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
I just want to wish Chuck fair winds and following seas. He's definitely going to be missed. I cannot tell you the times he's come out and helped me in whatever I've needed in this building. So yeah, I hope he stays by and stays close, and I wish him the best in his retirement.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Anderson, can you hear us?
Yeah, thank you.
Go
It
ahead.
sounds like everybody can hear me, so I'm happy about that, I guess. First, I'd like to note the passing of a World War II Greatest Generation veteran, 98-year-old Palmer Andrews, who we lost last week. Palmer Andrews was a Marine in the Pacific in the 3rd Regiment, 3rd Battalion, 5th Regiment, under command of Chesty Puller. He was involved in the landings at New Britain, Peleliu, and Okinawa, where he finished the war. He was a Purple Heart recipient, and also in California, one of the renowned lay scholars of Jack London. So Andrews is loved and missed by many. The other was we had a really good town hall meeting in Supervisor District 5 at the Lancaster Community Library. The room was packed. There were more than 100 veterans there. It was to standing room only. The briefings were excellent. The only, it's not a criticism, it's an observation I would offer, is make sure that we have about a half hour open for open questions from the floor. With that, I think you've got a winner, and I hope we do it again this year.
Thanks, Commissioner. It's really great to see the turnout from ST5. I mean, ST3, we weren't quite there, wasn't standing room only, but I think we're going to get there. And I have to say that the county library, I thought was a great place. It was used another library for ST5. Yeah, it's a great partnership. I mean, first of all, the library at San Fernando is just beautiful. It's a great courtyard area, but to have all of those resources and all of the IT and everything set up, it's just a great forum. I was really impressed. So hopefully we'll catch up to ST5.
So
Great.
Chuck's ears must have been burning. He's in the back of the room, so I'd like to invite him to come up.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I do?
40 years of service.
It's
You
been
get a
an honor and
Rolex, right?
I hope so. It's been an honor and a pleasure serving the veterans for the last 44 years. Right, Ms. Kelly?
That's right.
I just want to give you this coin.
Oh,
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
everything.
John?
Thank you so much for your service.
Okay, let's try it again.
Oh, I think we need a photo op. Got to land on the moon again.
He's slipping. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, Chuck.
I will grant my good of the order time to Commissioner Jackson Kelly.
Sorry, I apologize. I just want to thank the director, George, Jose, Chuck, and anyone that played a part in setting up the repast for this going on upstairs, no, downstairs, on the second floor. It is for Ben Militant, who turned 100 years old in July. He's a World War II veteran, and he served in the Pacific. He was a segregated unit in the Pacific, and he served with honors there. He was also director of the big band, a big band here in LA. So, excuse me, his family is very appreciative that they were able to utilize Patriotic Hall.
Okay, and then Commissioner Noyola.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to mention that in our district, I did meet with Mr. Brian Heyman, who is with the Downey Veterans Council. We were looking at how do we expand outreach to veterans within the Downey Southeast LA area, SELA. And he also partners with BPAN. So we will be looking at ways to start energizing that area and bringing those veterans together. One of the interesting questions that came up was how do we reach the veterans and do we know who they are? The question came up as to whether or not the county has any type of records that can be used to help locate those veterans and get the word out. And so I said that I would try to contact the county, our department, and see if there's some way to reach out to them, if we plan an event to try to bring them together. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. With that, I think the good of the order is done, and I believe that would bring us to adjournment. I'm sorry, wait, is that the next slide? Adjournment? Correct? Yeah. I have the power of this gavel. Anything else? Anyone? Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone in the public, for making it out. Thanks.
Thank you.